Hello, and welcome to a brief overview of Universal Design for Learning, also known as UDL, the Instructional Methods and Technologies. I'd first like to begin with addressing the Center for Applied Special Technology, which is a nonprofit research and development organization that works to expand learning opportunities for all individuals, especially those with disabilities, through Universal Design for Learning. It is through this nonprofit research and development organization that I received most of the research and through which Universal Design for Learning was essentially created. Before we really dive into UDL, I'd like to take just a moment to play a video from CAST that is UDL at a glance.
This teacher needs to meet a curriculum goal, and she's got a very diverse group of students. And so does this teacher. And this one. Most do. In fact, research shows that the way people learn is as unique as their fingerprints. What does this mean for teachers of today? Classrooms are highly diverse, and curriculum needs to be designed from the start to meet this diversity. Universal Design for Learning is an approach to curriculum that minimizes barriers and maximizes learning for all students. Whoa, that's a fancy term. Universal Design for Learning. Let's unpack it a bit. Let's think about the word universal. By universal, we mean curriculum that can be used and understood by everyone. Each learner in the classroom brings her own background, strengths, needs, and interests. Curriculum should provide genuine learning opportunities for each and every student. Now let's think about the word learning. Learning is not one thing. Neuroscience tells us that our brains have three broad networks. One for recognition, the what of learning, one for skills and strategies, the how of learning, and one for caring and prioritizing, the why of learning. Students need to gain knowledge, skills, and enthusiasm for learning, and a curriculum needs to help them do all three. But every learner is unique, and one size does not fit all. So how do we make a curriculum that challenges and engages diverse learners? This is where the word design comes in. A universally designed building is planned to be flexible and to accommodate all kinds of users, with and without disabilities. It turns out that if you design for those in the margins, your building works better for everyone. Curb cuts and ramps are used by people in wheelchairs, people with strollers, and people on bikes. Captioning on TV serves people who are deaf, people learning English, people in gyms, and spouses who get to sleep at different times. UDL takes this idea and applies it to the design of flexible curriculum. UDL goes beyond access because we need to build in support and challenge. So how do we use the UDL framework to make learning goals, methods, materials, and assessments that work for everyone? First, ask yourself, what is my goal? What do I want my students to know, do, and care about? Then ask, what barriers in the classroom might interfere with my diverse students reaching these goals? To eliminate the barriers, use the 3 UDL principles to create flexible paths to learning so that each student can progress. Number 1, provide multiple means of representation. Present content and information in multiple media and provide varied supports. Use graphics and animation, highlight the critical features, activate background knowledge, and support vocabulary so that students can acquire the knowledge being taught. Number 2, provide multiple means of action and expression. Give students plenty of options for expressing what they know and provide models, feedback, and supports for their different levels of proficiency. Number 3, provide multiple means of engagement. What fires up one student won't fire up another. Give students choices to fuel their interests and autonomy. Help them risk mistakes and learn from them. If they love learning, they will persist through challenges. And remember, always keep in mind the learning goal. Get rid of barriers caused by the curriculum and keep the challenge where it belongs. And that's it. Okay, quick recap. Show the information in different ways, Allow your students to approach learning tasks and demonstrate what they know in different ways, and offer options that engage students and keep their interest. Universal design for learning equals learning opportunities for all. For more information on UDL, go to www.cast.org.
The inspiration for UDL actually stems from universally designed buildings that are accessible to a wide variety of people. For example, people with strollers or people in wheelchairs. Before the idea of universally designed buildings came into play, there was often one access point to a building, and a lot of times that was stairs. While this seems great for the look of buildings or the pleasing qualities of the architecture, it was not accessible to all people who wanted to access that building. Therefore, universal design came into play in the architecture world, and education then took that idea and continued it into the curriculum aspect. In the education world, it is a set of principles for curriculum development that give all individuals equal opportunities to learn. The three principles of UDL, as shown in that video, are representation, which is the what of learning, so how we as teachers present the information. The second is action and expression, which is the how of learning, so how do students access that information once we present it. And then thirdly is the engagement, the why of learning. Why is it important for students to know specific pieces of information or specific content areas information? Let's start out with looking at representation, which is the first part or the first principle of UDL. As the CAST website said, learners differ in the ways that they perceive and comprehend information that is presented to them. So this can range from auditory, visually, kinesthetically. This also has a way of addressing learning disabilities as well as students with physical disabilities. So in order to display the information or represent the information, it's a difference in size of text and images, visual diagrams and written descriptions, and then physical objects and models. Some examples: audio or braille for visually impaired learners, larger text for students in the back of the classroom, and then translations for English language learner or English learner students. These don't necessarily have to apply simply to students who have learning disabilities. As the second example shows, it could be simply someone who's sitting further in the back of the room who might not be able to read a smaller text size. The second principle, action and expression. Again, as the website states, learners differ in the ways that they can navigate a learning environment and express what they know. So this has something to do with multiple intelligences, students embracing their talents, student choice. Some examples of this, the use of technology, including assistive technology. So again, even though this is not it's not limited to students with learning disorders, it does benefit to them more than a traditional curriculum design. Scaffolding and differentiating options for students to show their learning. So instead of just doing the multiple choice test, the essay test, the one way of showing their learning and what they learned throughout the unit, they are allowed to choose how they express their knowledge. Providing guides, checklists, or rubrics. So if one student chooses to do a presentation like the one I'm doing now, and another one chooses to write an essay on it, you'll have a rubric or a checklist that they can follow to make sure that they are hitting all of the necessary standards or components in order to express their knowledge. And also providing examples. If you do have options for summative assessments or summative projects that students can complete, you are providing examples of what a good movie or what a good digital story looks like, what a good essay looks like. And thirdly, engagement. From the website again, learners differ markedly in the ways in which they can be engaged or motivated to learn. This stems from student choice. Relevant and authentic content, so we're not just reading the books of the dead white guys. We are bringing in culture, we are bringing in the current generation and what is relevant to them. And then also a safe space for learning. Some examples for that: providing different levels of challenge, So differentiating between a student who struggles to read the 8th grade text, the 9th grade text, to a student who is well above the 12th grade reading level. Providing challenges that will not discourage them from learning, but will help them increase their knowledge and increase their ability to learn. Providing rewards or recognition, not always a piece of candy, but recognition for what they're doing well. Culturally and socially relevant content being learned. Again, going back to that, not reading just the books of the dead white guys, the classics. Bringing in that cultural diversity and social diversity. If you're reading books about something that would be good for a Mexican student, something that would be good for an African American student who has a protagonist or a main character that they can connect to. Also socially, if you have GLBT literature, so someone who is struggling with their sexuality might be able to connect with a character in that book. Frequent evaluation and formative feedback, as we talk about in the standards-based grading we've implemented. Having that frequent evaluation while they continue to learn and while they create their projects, and then formative feedback so you can tell them that they're on the right path and make sure that they know that what they're doing is good. And then also student self-reflection and a self-assessment. This also connects back to the standards-based grading system that we are going through, where students reflect on what they've learned and also reflect on if their project that they have created shows what they truly learned, or if they need to revamp it a little bit. Technology in UDL, from their website, technology has permeated all aspects of our economy and culture. Every learner now in school needs a range of literacies that are much broader and more inclusive of our changing culture. They also say, however, technology needs to be carefully planned into the curriculum as a way to achieve the goals. This is not simply putting technology in front of students and saying go. There needs to be some sort of plan that goes along with it. Using technology to present information or introduce a unit. So we would use a PowerPoint, we would use a video, as I did in the beginning of this, in order to introduce the information. But we're not just throwing all this stuff at them. It is in a way that is planned. Allowing students to use technology to display their learning. Specifying the options of technology. If you were to use technology as a student choice, saying you can use a presentation like PowerPoint, digital storytelling, or movie creation, so that they have a direction that they can use in order to display their knowledge, but they're not just given the wide variety of technology. Specifically at Maple Grove Junior High, we go back to the district's mission, which is our mission is to inspire and prepare all students with the confidence, courage, and competence to achieve their dreams, contribute to community, and engage in a lifetime of learning. UDL addresses all aspects of this mission. It will help students gain confidence in their learning as risks are reduced and roadblocks are eliminated. So students aren't having to conform or change their way of thinking to the one test that we're giving them or the one project that we are giving them. They're able to use their talents and use what they're best at to show how they learn. Roadblocks, writer's block, any of those that students have in the classroom because of a lack of variety or a lack of learning ability are also eliminated because we're differentiating and we're scaffolding using UDL. UDL will help students contribute to community as content is authentic and relevant to students' daily lives. A lot of times in social studies this happens where they're bringing in, the teachers are bringing in current events from Minnesota, current events from the United States. So students are able to connect to those things that are happening in their world. It also is relevant in science when we are talking about specific things in the healthcare community, in the scientific community that are happening right now at the very moment. So we're not talking about things that have happened so far in the past that it's not relevant to students. I've also seen in math them bringing in examples from the real world where students can't ask a math teacher, why do I need to use this? Because the math teacher is giving them authentic examples of how that math is used in the real world. UDL will help students engage in a lifetime of learning because student choice will inspire learners to continue seeking answers. If a student is driven down one path, but that path isn't meant for them, then they're constantly trying to reach for something that isn't there for them to reach for. For example, if a student has test anxiety, giving them a test in every single class will deter them from showing the teacher what they actually learned. If we give the student a choice of how to represent their knowledge and what they learned, they will be inspired to continue learning, continue into that lifetime of learning, and continue seeking answers to their questions. UDL and brain research, Universal Design for Learning, was specifically designed around the learning brain. So recognition networks, which is the what of learning, enable us to identify and understand information, ideas, and concepts. So this is how we gather facts, how we categorize things when we think about background knowledge or prior information. Strategic networks enable us to plan, execute, and monitor actions and skills. So this is once we have that information, what are we doing with it? How are we organizing it and expressing it? Writing an essay, solving a math problem. And lastly, affective networks enable us to engage with tasks and learning, and with that, the world around us. So how learners take what they learned after they've organized it and expressed it, how can they stay motivated and challenged and excited and interested about the content that they are learning? By focusing on the 3 parts of the learning brain, we are able to combat differences in students' learning abilities and support all students on an individual level. In order to specify how to do that, we look at the 3 parts of the learning brain. Recognition, by focusing on background information and prior knowledge. Typically, we talk about the students who come from different cultures. If we're teaching something that is specific to the American culture, or to say it, the white culture, we have to give students who are from a different culture the background information in order for them to understand what is happening in the content or why that content is important. The strategic part, focusing on the best way to present their knowledge. Having students understand what way they learn the best goes with the strategic part of the learning brain. If a student is forced to take notes by hand but has never learned how to correctly take notes or learned what kind of notes work for them, they're probably not going to get much out of it. But if we look at the student, think about how they learn the best, and say it would be better for you to draw pictures than just write down everything that's on the overhead, that would be how they would learn the best. And lastly, the affective, focusing on what matters most and what is relevant. If a student is concerned with our free and reduced lunch students that we are trying to focus on for the standardized testing, if they are more concerned about where they're going to get their next meal or what they're going to wear to school the next day because they don't have many clothes, they're not going to care as much about why we need to learn a plot diagram or why we need to learn why 2 chemicals that mix cause this reaction. If we can focus in on what matters to them, for example, by learning the plot diagram, giving them a short story with a character that they can connect to. If we, in science, talk about how food is created, and not to make them hungry, but just to teach them the way that society creates these things, that could then impact their thinking about what matters most to them. Technology use and supporting learners. Using technology to present information, first of all, it provides translations, so we can provide Spanish translations or we can provide Russian translations to those students who may just be learning English. Can provide examples from many different cultures, so we're not stuck with just the one example that we're teaching. We can pull from all the different cultures that represent the students in our classroom. We can provide background information, whether that is a video providing that background information, whether we can research that information in order to enhance our teaching. Using text, audio, and models to reach all learners. We're not simply lecturing. We have a text they can look at. We have audio that they can listen to. We have models that they can touch, that they can work with, that they can manipulate. And enhancing engagement through modern means. Our students are living in a society where technology is at the forefront. They were born into this society. We need to make sure that we're using this technology, using these modern means in order to grasp their attention and keep it, as well as teach them the different ways they can use technology in order to show their learning, which then goes into how they present their own learning. It provides options and student choice. Students can use technology if they want to. If they feel they can better represent their knowledge using a handwritten essay or something that doesn't use technology, then that is their choice too. It's not constantly thrown on them that they need to use technology, but it is there as an option. It provides a means for students to supplement their learning with more in-depth information. The information we give them, especially when you're working with the Universal Design for Learning, is not an overview per se, but a start to student learning. If students are then using technology, they can research more into a specific aspect of that content you are teaching them. They can supplement their learning with more in-depth information and then show their knowledge through using technology or through whatever means they choose. It also allows students to collaborate in an effective and supportive manner. Many times, if students can't get to each other's houses, they can maybe hop on a computer and email each other or chat with each other in order to continue their collaboration, as well as share the technological means of presenting that they are choosing in order to show their knowledge. The next 3 slides are some resources you can use as a teacher in order to help you implement UDL into your classroom. This first one is from the CAST website, and it is the UDL Book Builder. Now, this is obviously going to be wonderful for English teachers. However, I think it can be used in all content areas. So it is a free online tool that enables educators to develop their own digital books to support reading instruction for children aged 3 and up. Teachers create, edit, and save resource-rich text. Terry, an animated character, guides educators as they write text, choose images, and develop scripts for the prompts, hints, and models that will help build young readers' skills. This is essentially creating an ebook. You can use anything from the tortoise and the hare that's shown in the picture, or we can even use things like Hamlet, things like Macbeth, but give it a richer development. In here, you can ask students questions while they read. You can have students comment within this book. You can also put links to different resources that will increase their knowledge of what is happening within the book. The CAST website also contains all of that information that I shared with you before, which is where I looked at most of my research. It also has videos and resources that you can look at in order to increase your knowledge of UDL. The second resource is the U.S. Department of Education. In 2006, the U.S. Department of Education developed a toolkit on teaching and assessing students with disabilities to support the department's initiative to improve outcome for students with disabilities. The toolkit focused on increasing states' capacity to provide rigorous assessment, instruction, and accountability for students with disabilities. The toolkit on Universal Design for Learning is an additional component of the original toolkit and offers a compilation of current information on Universal Design for Learning. This is a great resource to go look at because it is put out by the U.S. Department of Education. Again, a toolkit for creating and helping students with learning disabilities, but also has an introduction, assessment, instructional practices, and centers of support. So some more information that can help you understand Universal Design for Learning. And lastly, the University of Northern Colorado has a whole toolkit, again, for UDL. It helps us identify potential instructional barriers to universally designed learning environments, and it provides research, tools to assess your curriculum design, and tools to use immediately in your classroom. This has lists, checklists, it has rubrics of ways to look at your current curriculum and see if you are correctly implementing Universal Design for Learning, and then it also has tips to teach you how to revamp your curriculum in order to change it so it can be a UDL based curriculum. If you have any further questions, the references that I have are listed here, and we hope that UDL will be implemented in Maple Grove Junior High throughout the curriculum this year, and conjunction with our standards-based grading implementation.